Hi guys, just want to do a quick guide on the fastest way to farm the clairvoyance weapon. So I'll just sort of go through it item by item and tell you which amorphous materials you're going to want to prioritise. So first things first, these top 3 items, as with all farms, you want to farm these first and sort of get them crafting. They have a 2-hour craft time, whereas the code doesn't need crafting. So what you do is you'll craft these and that'll give you sort of 2 hours to go out and farm the code, so can save you a bit of time all in all. So for the first part, the polymer, you're going to want to farm pattern 57. Reason being is pattern 57, it only takes about 4 minutes to do the corresponding mission to get the pattern 57 amorphous material, and the execution is probably the easiest boss out of all of these shown here as well. Sort of easiest and quickest boss, even more so than Hangman, just because with Hangman you have to do it in public lobbies. The other reason why you don't want to go for pattern 51 is it has a extremely low drop chance for the item from the amorphous material at only 3%, whereas sort of the hard mode ones have a 32% drop chance. Pattern 95 you don't want to go for because it's a 10-minute farm roughly for the amorphous material, and then Swamp Walker all in all takes slightly longer than Executioner. And then you don't want to farm pattern 116 because it means fighting Frostwalker to unlock the amorphous material, and Frostwalker is still one of the hardest bosses and is extremely difficult in public lobbies, so you'll be wasting a lot of time doing that, so just stick with pattern 57. So for the second part, the fibre, there's really 2 main options here. You've got pattern 106 and you've got pattern 121. So all in all, pattern 106 is going to be the faster farm. It's about a 9-minute farm to get the amorphous material itself, and then of course you'll then go and do the intercept battle. The reason why you'd normally want to do the intercept battle over something like a void fusion reactor is because with a void fusion reactor you have twice as much RNG. You have the RNG of whether or not you're going to get the amorphous material from the outpost itself, and then you have the, of course, RNG of whether or not you get the item out of the amorphous material. And so normally you would want to pick the intercept battle over the void fusion reactor because less RNG is just going to make the farm more consistent and so quicker all in all. However, by farming 121 you'll actually be farming one of the fortress outposts, and so I'll come on to it in a little bit, but the deformed biometal, which is also something you need, is farmed from the fortress outposts. And so what I'd say is do a couple runs of the pattern 121 outpost until you have the biometals, and in that time if you do happen to get a couple of pattern 121, because obviously it's RNG, you're not guaranteed to get that in those couple of runs, go and unlock them. And if you do get the fibre whilst doing that, great, you can move on to the next part. Otherwise I would then suggest moving on to pattern 106 because again, all in all, it is just a faster farm than doing it through the void fusion reactor. So for the nanotube, you're going to want to farm pattern 60. Reason being is pattern 60 has the best 2 shards in monomer and polymer. Monomer is the fastest shard to farm and polymer is the second fastest shard to farm, and on top of that, this is one of the easiest bosses to fight at this void fusion reactor, so you really cannot go wrong with this farm. Pattern 60 is sort of by far the best. You don't want to farm pattern 110, reason being is it has okay shards, but unfortunately organic is just slower than monomer, so it's going to be a slower farm. The boss itself is actually a good boss to fight, but it's going to be slower overall just because you are having to farm organic rather than monomer. And you don't want to farm pattern 92 because even though it is the best shards, again monomer and polymer, the boss is horrible to farm. It's sort of got immunity phases and all that sort of stuff, and so again you'll be wasting more time than if you just went for pattern 60. And then you don't want to farm sort of the normal mode one because lower drop chance, you just be wasting your time. And then for the code, sort of as mentioned before, you want to sort of prioritize intercept battles over void fusion reactors in general because of the less RNG, and so it's between 58 and 84 and you want to farm 58. Pattern 58 and 84 take a similar amount of time to farm through their dungeon mission at about 7 minutes, but overall Executioner is a slightly easier boss, and so just go for pattern 58. So in terms of the pain point items, the encrypted neural circuit, this is one of the best items to go for because all you do is you will go to Echo Swamp, and it's just this mission here, the abandoned refinery unit. It is still one of the best, if not the best, gold and Kuiper farm in the game, and just so happens to drop these items as well, so you get them in no time. So the deformed biometal is the next one, and again, this comes from the outpost in Fortress, so that's why I sort of suggested farming the outpost first for the fibre. But if you haven't done that, then all you do is just pick one of the normal outposts to farm because it's going to make it slightly quicker, and just sort of farm it and repeat until you have the items. It should only really take you 2 runs unless your RNG is pretty unlucky, but you get about 10 to 15 a time and you only need 19. And then lastly, the fusion plasma battery. Just pick one of these 2 normal outposts and sort of farm it on repeat, so either the 2 sterile land outposts. You'll get about 10 to 15 a time, so won't take you too long. So yeah, hope that helps. Thanks.